We got $75,000 in seed funding. Folks were working mostly on a volunteer basis. We were really shocked and heartened that almost immediately, as soon as we kind of put up this kind of very low budget WordPress site, that our work started having impact. So other publications were willing to co-publish with us. Freelancers wanted to write for us, and it started making noise at the state among policymakers. And so that was really exciting. And now 5 years later, we're a full-time team of 16. We're on track to be probably around 19 or 20 by the end of the year.
This is Small Press Big Ideas, a podcast about the business of local news in the United States. I'm your host, Paul Gewertz. Small Press Big Ideas is about the opportunities and challenges that local news publishers are facing for their businesses. I'll sit down and talk with journalists, entrepreneurs, nonprofit leaders, and more in the local news industry to find out what's working, what isn't, and how the local news ecosystem can innovate and flourish in the 21st century. Today on the podcast, I am joined by Rebecca Klein. She is the publisher at New York Focus, which is an independent nonprofit newsroom investigating power in the Empire State in New York State. So, Rebecca, nice to meet you. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. I kind of start most every episode the same since it's our first time meeting. If you could just set the stage, tell me a little bit about your background and your kind of career, your story in local media. I'd kind of love to hear that path you've taken.
Sure. I spent a long time actually as a national education reporter, so not working in local media, but writing about an issue that was primarily decided at the local level. And so I could see over time how some of the disintegration of local outlets was impacting discussions around education and how a lot of national noise was trickling down to distort local conversations. And so I started thinking a lot about local news and how I might get involved. And it was just kind of kismet that I found New York Focus and got this opportunity to think strategically about how we could build something at the state and local level here, and try and make it sustainable and impactful.
Very cool. It's funny. I was just putting together a podcast I recorded a little while back this morning with a guy in, I think, Raleigh-Durham in the Carolinas. And on a smaller level, he had been working at a local newspaper, and he had kids, and he was very interested in the local school board. And he basically started a hyper-local kind of newsletter based off that same thing. So it's interesting. It's funny when you hear one thing and then you hear more reasons. And but yeah, no, that people come from all over the space in the local media, from what I hear. They've either been in it for 17 generations or they fell backwards into it or something else led into it. But interesting. Could you tell us a little bit about New York Focus and kind of your day-to-day there?
Yeah, we launched around a little over 5 years ago, kind of as grassroots and scrappy as an outlet could be. Our editor-in-chief, who's our founder, had been freelancing on New York issues, but was really only getting his work placed in national outlets because it was so hard to find local outlets, particularly outlets focused on the state as a whole, that existed to publish his work. So he decided to throw caution to the wind and try and build one. We got $75,000 in seed funding. Folks were working mostly on a volunteer basis. We were really shocked and heartened that almost immediately, as soon as we kind of put up this kind of very low budget WordPress site, that our work started having impact. So other publications were willing to co-publish with us. Freelancers wanted to write for us, and it started making noise at the state among policymakers. And so that was really exciting. And now 5 years later, we're a full-time team of 16. We're on track to be probably around 19 or 20 by the end of the year. And we have reporters in Albany. We have reporters in New York City.
That's awesome. From like super scrappy to 16, a newsroom of 16, that's impressive. I talked to a lot of folks, like startups, if you will. I don't know if that's the right term for local news, but that's really cool. And it's a nonprofit, right? So it's primarily like donors is the funding, because there's a theme around sustainability on here too. I'm just wondering what's keeping it afloat and everything.
Yeah, overwhelmingly supported by donors. There's our mix of large institutional foundations, and then a growing major gifts portfolio, and then reader revenue. So we feel pretty lucky as far as the individual donations go, that we're in New York, and there's a lot of people who are really civic minded, but also have capacity. So so that has been wonderful, and we've met so many generous, thoughtful people in the process.
That's nice. And then, so I'm very far away. I'm in Western Colorado, a pretty rural area. But, my dad is from Queens, so I spent a lot of time going back and forth. I've got cousins in Long Island and Albany, I think. So I have a rough idea of the state and the dynamics there. It's kind of the capital of the world. So the capital is in Albany, correct? That's just getting this straight for myself more than anything, right? And where's you already, I'm sorry, you already said that. You have reporters in Albany and in the city, I'm assuming, is kind of the main kind of coverage areas and stuff like that. And
That's right, yeah.
and
So
I was, yeah, go ahead.
no, so we kind of our overall mission is we cover what happens in Albany and how that trickles down to impact the state. So we have folks in Albany, and we have folks in the New York City area that are covering state politics and policy from New York City about Albany. So we go back and forth quite a lot as well. And I live in Queens, so.
Do you? Yeah, my dad's from Flushing in Queens.
Nice.
I'm assuming you know where that is. I'm not. Once again,
Yeah.
I've spent very limited time there. Yeah. So you started as just literally a simple WordPress site. You said just 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and you've grown to a newsroom of 16 full-time folks. I mean, the reality in 2026 is, I was just talking to somebody right before this, publisher out of Toronto. It's like the reality is you have to be everywhere now. I'm curious, as it's grown, the footprint of New York Focus, what other formats have you expanded into? I'm sure you have the sites. Do you do email, social media? Can you talk a little bit about where you're reaching people?
Sure, yeah. So we have our newsletters, which we send one out almost every day. We're on Instagram, TikTok, doing more videos with our reporters and thinking about how else we want to show up for people visually. Obviously Twitter, Bluesky, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those players. And then we also recently launched a live events program. So we just finished our first 3 live events, and those were focused on the new mayor of New York City and what it would require from Albany to make his agenda a reality, because so much of the decision making for New York City actually flows through Albany, which is something that I think not a lot of people realize. So we did one on childcare, transportation, and housing. And now we're actually going to be bringing someone on full time to help us expand our in-person events offering. And we hope to eventually kind of travel around the state and host many different types of events depending on what matters to their communities.
Yeah, events have been popping up more and more just on the podcast. A lot of folks are getting great traction with it. I think because it's such a digital world that people are kind of starved for that kind of stuff. Sometimes that's my takeaway. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's what's going on or not. Where would you say, like, the primary, like, where do the most people find you? Is it through email, like through web traffic? Do you know? I don't know if you have that data like in front of you. Sorry, this wasn't in our prep. I'm just asking out of my own curiosity now.
No, totally. So there's email, our webpage, search, but also we have a pretty expansive syndication network. So there's dozens of outlets that we send our work to every week and encourage them to republish it for free. So that's in all corners of the states, some really small hyper-local outlets, some bigger metro outlets. And we just see that as part of our mission, is helping to fill some of these gaps in terms of covering state politics and making sure it reaches people where they are. So a lot of people know our work and maybe have never even been to our website.
Awesome. And I would imagine, just because of the fact that you're in New York City and it's such a global city, if not the global city, I would imagine occasionally things will go, beyond like the New York area. Like, I don't know if you want to call it viral or whatever, but I'm sure that things get carried elsewhere also, especially with the political realities in the state and everything now. There's a lot of buzz happening, but I would imagine, you tell me, I don't know if that's the fact or not.
Totally. And also as a place that's home to so many different types of people from all over the world, we had actually a forum with other local outlets, a mayoral forum last year with candidates for New York City mayor, and something that kind of went globally viral is we asked them a question about the Prime Minister of India, and it received millions of views, oftentimes from people in India. So
Awesome. That's cool when something goes totally global like that. I've had some stories like that on the podcast before. So the next question I had prepped on here was it's 2026, and as I have been saying, I'm legally obligated to ask you about AI because that's what everybody's talking about. I just like getting perspectives from all over different publications and everything of kind of your general opinions on it. I know it's a big question. It's a big ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, but just your general thoughts and if you're using any tools, and if so, how. I'd like to kind of hear that.
yeah, so I've heard from our reporters that they are using AI to help sift through large batches of court documents
Mm-hmm.
and data sets. We don't have any particular mandates right now. I mean, we're committed that everything will include a layer of human oversight, but
Mm-hmm.
we're also committed to kind of figuring out what our disposition and policy is in collaboration with our reporters. So in the next few weeks, we're going to be starting a working group with a team of editorial employees to kind of figure out what our policy is when it comes to generative AI, when we think it's appropriate, what best practices will be.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that around also. Just having a policy in place and people kind of, I don't want to say scrambling, but trying to put some stuff together. And it's changing so fast, it's kind of hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
It's kind of why that stuff's kind of necessary, I suppose. Another question I've been asking everybody lately is, like I just said, things are changing incredibly rapidly with AI, just with everything, with social media, fracturing of kind of media ecosystems and everything. So I like to take some different people on. If you were to flash forward 5 years, where do you see, first of all, yourself, in your career, but also New York focus, and like, what do you think your newsroom looks like in 2030, 2031?
My goal for New York Focus, so right now, as I mentioned, we're a team of 16. We have full-time reporters covering social services, education, state politics, climate, criminal justice, immigration. Let me think, is there anyone I'm forgetting? And so we want to continue to build and expand on that coverage. So I hope in a few years' times we can add housing coverage, healthcare coverage, that we could really build out our state politics coverage in terms of having someone dedicated specifically to covering the assembly, the state senate, the executive branch, courts. And then we also hope to start local bureaus around the state. There was a time where all local newspapers, they used to have an Albany bureau where they'd have someone there who would come back and report what's happening in the state and what it meant for their communities. We kind of want to reverse engineer that down the line, have someone in their local communities who's following what's happening in Albany and then translating it back to them and holding local events around that. So we hope that our editorial footprint is much larger. On a distribution scale, we really, really are invested in expanding this syndication network and making sure that we're reaching all corners of the state, that we're partnering more with ethnic newspapers, that we're translating our work more easily for folks, that we are really reaching folks in audio, visuals, however they might be consuming the news, that we've built out our events program, and that we have a really robust, diversified fundraising system so that we can always guarantee that we're going to be a permanent watchdog for the state.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like the idea of reverse engineering, kind of like the local bureaus, I think you said. That's a really
Yeah.
cool idea. And also, let me ask you a little bit more. Sorry, I didn't dig into it enough, but you just reminded me. The syndication network, you said you're invested in kind of growing that. And you said it's all like hyperlocals, smaller newspaper, ethnic, newspapers in different languages. New York is incredibly diverse. How do you go about that? Like, I haven't had anybody, sorry, if it's kind of going off the cuff here. I haven't really had anybody with that kind of project going on. Could you just talk a little bit about that more? Is that too vague?
No, not at all. So a lot of what we've been doing so far is reaching out to potential partners through our networks, reaching out sometimes cold, and just introducing ourselves and saying, would you, be open to having this new work published in your pages or on your website? It won't cost you anything. You can vet us, and we're just interested in giving you access to it. In the future, we hope to be a little bit more strategic about it in terms of making sure that we're dedicating our efforts to filling specific gaps. So we're looking right now at counties and places that have seen the biggest decrease in number of local news outlets. And we're really going to try and partner with them and make sure that we're filling some of those gaps and that we're doing more to make sure people know about us there.
That's super cool. Yeah, that's very cool. That's another theme. I keep talking about themes I see on this podcast, but you're hitting a lot of them for me, is just that kind of collaboration piece with local news and local media. And I think it's the right attitude to have versus just, viewing people as a competitor, like kind of helping the whole ecosystem. So very cool. Very cool. Rebecca, that's everything I had in prep. I'd love if you'd let people know where they can find you online. Anything else you want to promote, throw out there, any events coming up, let me know. I can link to all of it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, just subscribe to our newsletter. We're at www.nysfocus.com. It's a really interesting time in New York politics, and we hope you'll follow along. And you can find me on Bluesky. You can find me on Twitter, and I look forward to hearing from folks.
Cool. Yeah, I'll link to all that stuff, and I'll go back through. If there's anything else we mentioned that deserves a link, I'll throw that in there too. Awesome. Rebecca, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day, and thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your thoughtful questions.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to Small Press Big Ideas. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to help the show, the best thing you can do is to tell a friend or colleague and just take a few minutes to leave a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to right now. It only takes a minute out of your day, but it really does help the podcast grow and reach more ears. Check back for new episodes every Monday.